Greetings friends, welcome to Ride Review. My name is Tyson and today I'm showing you the Himiway C5. This is an electric bike that's got some pretty serious motocross influence here. Himiway actually says that this bike is supposed to be a hybrid between the utility of a commuting electric bike and then the adventure, fun riding ability of an off-road motorcycle. So, how does this bike do blending those two worlds? Well, I would say mixed results, but it's got some really premium components on here. I'm honestly pretty impressed by some of the stuff that this C5 is equipped with. If you're not familiar with Himiway, they've been in the e-bike scene since around 2018 or so, and they didn't get off to a great start in 2018, honestly. Like, their first model just had a lot of issues from just the design and quality control, and their support wasn't great, but Himiway has kept at it. They probably deserve some kind of an award for just most improved e-bike brand out there. In particular, their quality control and just the components that they're using have improved a lot, and they've also been really trying to improve their support as well. They just opened their first official service center in the United States over in California. They're planning to open more. They're trying to add more dealers, so it's good to see them really making efforts to improve on that front. So let's dive in with just a quick design overview on the C5 here. Now, this is what you call a mini bike. All right, you've got the long banana seat here. I mean, this frame looks like something that you would see on a dirt bike, right? It's definitely not something you're going to see on a lot of other e-bikes out there, which on the one hand is very cool, very eye-catching. I love all the white because it makes it more visible whether you're riding in day or night. The one downside of this unique frame, though, is that it's going to make it harder to mount accessories. Good luck finding a rear rack that's going to fit on here, or your fenders. You can put some accessories up on the handlebars, of course, and there are some bosses on the side of the frame here, so you could mount a bottle cage. They're positioned on the side, which is a little bit funky, but they'll still get the job done. Himiway's really gone above and beyond with the suspension on here as well, too. So for a suspension fork up front, you've got 140 millimeters of travel. This is nice, high quality stuff. You can adjust the compression right up here for that. So, I mean, it performs really well. And then on the back, you've got air suspension as well. This Exaform rear suspension gets you about 50 millimeters of travel or so. It's not a ton, but definitely makes a difference. Air is really high performing, but it can be really finicky to set up. When I got mine, this was completely full of air. I couldn't press it down at all, and I tried to let just a little bit of air out and it all went out instantly, and then my pump wouldn't fit on the nozzle here, so I had to go find an adapter. It's just kind of an ordeal to get it set up, but once you have it dialed in for your weight, these do feel really nice. The tires on here do feel very motorcycle-y as well. These are Kenda tires that Himiway's partnered with them for the design on it. They do have puncture protection, the KS Shield puncture protection, which definitely gives you some more peace of mind riding it off-road. And it's a nice hybrid tread. This will do well on pretty much any surface. Pretty knobby here, so it is probably leaning a bit more towards the off-road trails, but will still be reasonably efficient on pavement and shouldn't be too loud. There's some knobby tires that are super loud on asphalt, and these ones don't seem to be too bad. Something worth discussing on here is the pedaling drivetrain on the C5 is not what you see on a lot of mini bikes. So a mini bike frame like this, it's not very comfortable to sit on or to pedal, which is why you see a lot of mini bikes that only have a single speed drivetrain, if they have pedaling at all. But here on the C5, we have got a Shimano Altus, which is pretty decent quality derailleur from Shimano, paired with a 7-speed drivetrain. Now, this is a pretty basic freewheel back here. This is the old MFTZ 500. So it's a pretty basic quality, range of 14 to 28 teeth, not a big pedaling range, but like I said, you don't need that on a mini bike. But this is just an interesting choice, and they even went for the the trigger shifters up here, which I do like. They're very, they have this nice tactile, clicky feeling to them. So if you're going to be using gears and shifting, that's certainly the way to go. But it is just an interesting design choice on here because these are tough to pedal. I find myself just leaving it in gear 7 all the time and using the throttle more often than not. But it even has a torque sensor too, which again, you just don't really see a lot on a mini bike. So if you're not familiar with the different types of sensors for these e-bikes, cadence sensors are the kind of more affordable option, and they just measure the revolutions of the pedals going around. They don't care how hard you press on the pedal. But a torque sensor like we have on here, that's actually measuring how much pressure you put onto the pedals. So that's good for a more active, engaging ride experience. You have to put in more exercise to get more speed out of the bike, but again, it's just a weird choice on the mini bike here. It's actually hard to push on these pedals because of the seating position, especially if you're tall like me. So, you know, this is one situation where I think it's better to actually have a cadence sensor. But we'll talk more about, you know, the differences there once we dive into the ride test portion of the video. I do like that, you know, put the slap guard on here on that lower chainstay just so that, you know, this isn't going to be scratching that up if it does bounce, which it does if you do some serious off-roading here. It's definitely going to be clanking around. Let's see, let's talk about the motor and the battery here. They've done a good job with the battery. Really, the only part I don't like about the battery is the way that it's mounted on the bottom of the bike here. It makes it kind of difficult to get off and on. It's hard to see the runners where it's supposed to slot in when you're mounting it, and you have to hold it up against the bike. It is pretty heavy, and you know, the Himiway right here is upside down, so it seems like they maybe didn't plan for it to be mounted upside down even at first, but it is now, which makes sense from the frame. You know, it's probably the best place to put it. Cool feature on this battery. It has running lights, so you hold your finger down on this little lights button here, and that will, I might have to take my glove off actually. I think it's like a capacitive button, so I'll try that again. There we go. So they come on to this default flashing mode, and then you can short press the button again to cycle between a bunch of other ones. And they're, you know, reasonably bright. I mean, we're out here in direct sunlight and they're still standing out a bit. Really more of a nighttime feature, obviously. We'll go ahead and turn that off here for now. You just hold down the button again, and there you go. I want to show you the battery, but I'm going to have to put the camera down because there's just no way to get this off of here with one hand. Okay, here we go. It's pretty decent sized battery. We're looking at 960 watt hours of capacity. They're using high quality LG cells. This is pretty solid. It's got the carry handle on top too, so you know that helps out if you need to transport it around with you. And there's even a charging port on the side here for USB-C, so you can, you know, plug in your phone while you're riding, keep it topped off. That's just the charge port for charging the battery itself if you want to charge it off the bike. And we'll see if I can get it back up in here with one hand. You know, there's the runners that it slots onto. It's just a little bit difficult to line up. Come on. You have to really press it up there hard. And yeah, I don't think I can do it with one hand because you have to really push it back with some force. Okay, I believe we're slotted back in here. I'm gonna make sure the bike turns on because a couple times when I put it back in here, the bike didn't turn on. I think it was because I had it too far forward. Okay, yeah, it's turning on, so we're all squared away there. The battery is pushing a 750 watt motor, hub motor, back here in the rear, and Himiway works with, I don't know who they work with to make these motors, but they've been doing their own designs for at least a couple years now. And so this thing's, you know, pretty reasonably powerful. These get a decent mechanical advantage being in a smaller diameter, 20-inch wheel back here, and so it feels pretty peppy. The controller it's paired with, I feel like could be improved. It's a 22 amp. Which is decent, but just something about the tuning of it feels a little bit off. The biggest thing that I notice is that when you hit the throttle, you know, there's quite a bit of a delay between hitting the throttle and then the bike actually taking off, and it varies kind of randomly. I will try to demonstrate that for you as much as I can in the ride test. Now this does feel pretty torquey, you know, especially taking off. It's got some really nice acceleration, but then it really starts to drop off around 18 miles per hour. And if you unlock the bike, like I have, then you can get it up to, you know, around 25, 26-ish miles per hour on the throttle before it really just, you know, starts to bottom out. And if you're, you know, going uphill or into wind or anything, that's going to be even lower. I do definitely recommend unlocking the bike if you're going to be doing any, like, you know, off-road, riding on Jeep trails, that kind of stuff. Otherwise, the throttle is going to be capped at 20 miles per hour, and it's more speed is fun, right? Especially if you're leaning into the more, like, you know, off-roading motorcycle aspect of this bike. But just keep in mind, if you do unlock it, that means it's, you know, not technically street legal, and depending on where you ride, that might not be a good idea. And it would be remiss of me not to mention the cup holder, especially because I'm using it. So there's a coffee cup holder that comes on here, and it comes with this mug. Now when I first saw this, I thought, you know, this is pretty gimmicky and silly, but, you know, it's actually growing on me. There's this little, I don't even know what you'd call this, something in here to help to kind of keep it stable, so it can bounce a little bit to the side, but it's actually, like, sticks in there pretty well. And this is actually a really nice mug. It completely seals. I mean, I have it actually full of coffee right now, and you can turn it upside down and shake it. So, you know, even if it did fall out of there, you would probably still be okay. It's not, you know, maybe I can, like, bend this back out here and get it to There we go. It's a tiny bit more stable. So, you know, it could be a little bit more stable. Still maybe a little bit gimmicky, but I can actually see the, you know, the usefulness for it. I do like to have coffee with me when I'm doing reviews, so, you know, got that covered now. Okay, before we jump into the ride test, let's run through the, you know, the control system here, display and all that. I'll just move into the shade to help the display be a little bit easier to see. I'll go ahead and fire that up now. These are Himiway's new and improved displays, which launched, I don't know, a year or two ago. They're decently bright. You know, they can be a little bit hard to see in bright sunlight. It is a very nice looking display, good readout of data. Overall, I like these displays, although they have been kind of mixed reception from current Himiway owners who have upgraded, because the previous versions of their displays actually allowed you to configure a bit more about the bike. But, you know, this one certainly gets the job done. So it gives you your speed readout right in the center. You can see your pedal assist level at the top, battery display, you know, odometer, all that good stuff. It's just a 5-bar meter for the battery, not super precise, and it does suffer from voltage sag, which means that when you hit the throttle and you're going up a hill or something like that, you'll actually see your capacity drop down just a little bit until you level out, which can make it a little bit difficult to know how much range you've got left. You control it with the button pad over here, plus and minus to go, you know, up and down your assist levels. Those only affect pedaling, by the way. Throttle is just full on all the time, which is awesome. Definitely the way to do it. Got a flick bell over here. Shift the gears with your trigger shifter. I've just been leaving it up in 7 because pedaling on these is not a great time. Throttle over there on the left. Nice like rubberized grips on here. You do get lights included, which we'll go ahead and turn on. Hold down the plus button, and these are automatic lights too, so if it gets dark they will just turn themselves on. Now the headlight is pretty awesome looking. Sadly, it's not that great at night. It's just not, I don't know, it's not as bright as I thought it would be, and I think it's more just that the beam spread is pretty narrow. It does have the side cutouts, so you can see it from the side, a little bit better side visibility. There is a taillight as well, which is kind of tough to see from the positioning. Like once you get back here far enough, you can see it all right, but if you're up close, it gets blocked off by the frame. It's got that brake light activation, so if you squeeze the brakes, then you get that little bit brighter mode on there. So yeah, nice little safety touch. No turn signals or anything on here, which would be nice to have, but at least we've got the basic lights included on here. And brakes are solid on this thing as well. These are the Tektro hydraulic disc brakes, so they're very easy to actuate the levers since they're hydraulic. We've got these big, huge 180mm rotors on the front and in the rear here. These are excellent stopping power. It's you need this much with a bike that's this heavy. I mean, this thing is 88 pounds, I want to say. Like it's a pretty hefty bike, despite it's a short frame. Certainly it's very compact, but still ends up being very big and bulky. You've got the weight on here, you've got the bump stops. So when you have this this is called like a triple clamp fork up here for the suspension, and so you've got these bump stops right here so that when you turn the fork, they protect the frame from getting scratched up, but that does limit your turning radius. That's as far as it can turn. So trying to maneuver this thing in the garage or at the bike rack is actually quite difficult. Now I've mentioned the seating position on here not being great. So here is a look at it. With the pedal all the way down, I still feel like my knees are, up here in my chest, more or less. So if you're tall like me, this is not a comfortable bike to sit on. Now, Himiway says the range for this is, I think, like 5'4" to 6'3" tall. I'm 6'3". I'm way too big for this. At least, especially as far as pedaling goes, it just doesn't feel great, and it just does feel kind of, a little bit small for me. Which, mini bikes pretty much never fit me, so that's just kind of how it works. If you're a little bit shorter, I think like 5'8" or shorter, then pedaling on this might actually feel pretty good. But 5'10" and up for sure, it's not going to feel great on your knees to pedal. Okay, let's jump in and take it for a spin here. And actually, there's we got a pretty steep hill right over here. So let's see what we can do. Do a little throttle test right off the bat. Yeah, let's take it away. I'm in level 1 for pedal assist here, but that doesn't matter for the throttle as long as you're in any, actually I think it might be live in 0. Nope, it's not. Okay, so as long as you're in at least 1, you get full throttle power. So let's just give it a little test up this hill. Oh, I don't think we're gonna make it. Nope, I had to put my feet down. Now this is a pretty steep hill. Let me back up just a little bit so you can kind of see it from the side angle. This is pretty steep. I wasn't really sure if we'd be able to climb this or not, but the answer is no. We're at full charge battery too, so hill climbing capabilities may not be super awesome on here, but let's try to find something a little bit less extreme. All right, so we're going to try the pedal assist here first, and I want to talk a little bit more about the pedaling drivetrain. So I mentioned before that this has a torque sensor, which means it's responding to how much pressure I put onto the pedals. So if I want to go faster with pedaling, then I've got to press harder on the pedals. So this emulates the classic bicycling experience where you get more exercise if you want to go faster, but I don't love it on the C5 or any mini bike, honestly. Some of that's my height. I'm 6 feet 3 inches tall. I'm definitely on the large size for this, and so pedaling feels even worse for me than it is going to feel for most folks. But with that in mind, let's get started here. Now, here's a look. Just my pedaling my pedaling position here is not awesome. This is as far as my legs can extend, and at the top of it, they're practically up here in my chest. And so the reason that the torque sensor is bad in this situation is that it actually hurts my knees to push hard on the pedals when I'm sitting in this kind of a cramped position here. I would much rather actually have a cadence sensor that just requires me to cycle the pedals around lightly. That fits really well for a lot of mini bikes. And so, like I said, the torque sensor is kind of a funky choice. It is a very nice torque sensor. It's tuned quite well. It's very responsive. I'm going to try to show you the responsiveness of it. And so that you can see how much of a delay there is, or is not, rather, when I start and stop pedaling, or when I increase the how much pressure I'm putting into it. Okay, so I've got it up here in level 5, and just so I can kind of demo this. So if I start pedaling really lightly, then it's going to barely kick in any power, and then as soon as I start to press harder right now, I get much more power kicking in. And then if I just kind of stop and start pedaling a few times, you can see what the delay is like. What's interesting is there's actually a bit of a delay when you're already at speed, so it takes a while for it to kick in. If I come down here all the way to a complete stop, and then do that again, just starting out pedaling, then there's almost no delay. So that's awesome. Going from a dead stop, you can get going and it kicks in almost instantly. But then once you're already in motion, there's a significant delay for the pedaling to kick in, and then again a delay when you stop pedaling. It'll kind of keep going for a second. So it seems like they kind of have a combination cadence sensor thing going on with it. If you look at the first person view here, then you can see the power output right there. And so if I come down here to a stop, and then we'll start pedaling here, we get pretty much instant power. And once I get up here to a mid speed, I'm gonna stop, keeps going for just like a half-second delay. Sometimes it's faster than others. It's there seems to be certain speeds where there's a more noticeable delay. I haven't really quite figured that out yet. If you've tapped the brake levers at all, then that puts a pretty significant delay when you let off the brake levers before it'll actually kick back in, which is to be expected. But anyways, I feel like there's some room to improvement just with the the tuning of the controller, maybe, to get that delay shaved down a bit more. All right, we're gonna see what kind of speeds we can do using just the pedal assist here still. I dropped it down into level 1, which is gonna be quite a bit less assistance. Let me shift this down just a little bit. Yeah, I found that even riding with whatever level of pedal assist, I've still really only used gears like 5 through 7 on the derailleur, just because I don't know, the lower ones don't, I feel like I end up just shifting up so fast, might as well just use those ones. But anyway, so riding on level 1, the power meter doesn't get up very high. It doesn't show us, how many watts that is. We could theoretically get up to 28 miles per hour on here, but we really have to be pedaling hard. That's it's more work than I want to do. So let's bump that up to like level 3. Quite a bit more power there. This one, this is probably a pretty good mode for, if you're still wanting to get yourself some exercise. It is a pretty heavy bike, and just from the cramped pedaling position, this is actually a decent workout. Okay, I'm gonna kick it up to level 5, and then we'll get onto this main street here, and then I want to see how fast I can get going just using the pedal assist. All right. We are up past 20 miles per hour. My legs are already starting to pump pretty quick. This is a very limited drivetrain, so going to make it hard to hit those higher speeds. We're up to 25 miles per hour. You can kind of feel a little bit of ghost pedal-esque action. Let's see if we can get up to 28, 27. Goodness. Okay, well, we hit 27.3. Oh, that's, I mean, I can't really even pedal faster than that, but more importantly, I mean, my knees hurt. Like, trying to push that hard and pedal hard sitting like this is super uncomfortable. I wouldn't be able to maintain that, you know, for any long stretch of time. So now that we're just, you know, kind of cruising on a quiet trail, this is when it would be nice to have a cadence sensor on this bike. It's because I want to be able to cruise at a high speed, like say 20 miles per hour. But in order to do that, I have to keep pushing hard on the pedals, which, you know, yes, it's more exercise, which is good, but my knees hurt from sitting like this. If I was, say, on my way to work and I don't want to show up all sweaty, then, you know, that's not going to work. I'm going to have to ride slow or show up sweaty. So, you know, the commuting utility is definitely hurt by not having a cadence sensor. All right, let's see what the throttle can do. I know we got some dirt trail up here too, so we can, you know, kind of commence with the trail part of the ride. Anyways, we're gonna just do a 0 to however fast we can get going on the throttle. Let's see what we can do. Acceleration off the line is awesome. Like, there's basically no delay, really a lot of takeoff. There we are, already up at 20. Suspension feels awesome on this trail. It's a good mix of, you know, dirt and rocks and various uneven terrain. We got up to about 23 miles per hour, but we can probably get going faster on the pavement here. We're going uphill just a tad. I just want to see what it can do. There is 20 miles per hour. Feels kind of topped out right around 24, so we'll try and go back down the other way. Give it a little bit of a downhill advantage. There's 20 miles per hour. We're going to need a little bit of a longer runway to really put that to the test. So for now, let's just go ahead and do some trail riding here. So we've got a kind of a series of trails out here. So we'll, yeah, just see how it does. I'm honestly going to be using the throttle more than pedaling on a lot of this. Some of that's from the pedaling position. And I think I talked about this earlier when we were on the pedal assist section, but there is a noticeable delay when I start pedaling again. Once I'm in motion, like if I stop pedaling and then start, there's such a significant delay. So even if I'm, you know, let's say I'm, you know, standing up on the pedals like this, and then I like try to start pedaling, I mean, I'm getting like 3 or 4, like 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. I mean, you're getting 4+ cranks on the pedals before the motor kicks in. And this bike is just so heavy that is just, you know, not a great feeling. It's the throttle has a little bit of a delay, but it seems like it's a little bit less than that, and so it's definitely more fun to just stick to that out here on the trails. Hey, boy. Hey, I guess I should say I am still pedaling, but I'm just using the throttle to help out the pedaling quite a bit. Ooh. Okay, here's a nice straightaway. We can try out the full throttle. We're just gonna hammer it on, see how fast we can get going. There's 20 miles per hour. 25. Hey, all right, we broke past 26. You know, we're back down to 25.7 now. We actually had a little bit of a downhill advantage there too. So you're not gonna be hitting 28 miles per hour on the throttle unless you're a really lightweight person. We'll do another one, run it back the other way. 25 seems to be about the realistic cap for the throttle speed. And if you look at the battery, you can see that it just dropped down by, you know, one block, 20%. But that's the voltage sag that I was talking about. Going uphill here, we're, you know, barely breaking 25. Now if I come to a stop and you watch the battery meter, boom, it's back up to full battery. It makes it kind of difficult to tell how much you've got remaining. That has to do with the BMS or battery management system. I don't understand exactly how all of that works, but you know, it is possible to not have the battery sag down like that. All right, back to trail riding. Got quite a bit of rougher trail action out here. Really phenomenal performance from the suspension. I mean, it feels awesome. Here we can do another little mini hill climb test here. This one's not as steep as the one we tried last time. Let's see if we can make it up. Throttle only. Oh, come on. Are we gonna do it? We're making it, but just barely. Woohoo! Should be an even better test. See if we can make it back up this bit. I'm gonna have to pedal to help out. I can already tell that much. Come on. Woo-hoo. Yeah, just from how heavy this bike is, you would not want to get stuck trying to, you know, go up something as steep as this and get stuck in the middle. Have this fall on you would actually be pretty painful. I think we can say the cup holder is you know, battle tested from some of these trails here. It's in there pretty snug, so all right, not too bad. Here we go. Woohoo, up to 23 miles an hour just coming downhill on that. Ooh, those are some deep ruts. Oh, come on. That delay on the throttle is just killer sometimes. You know, especially if you are, you know, kind of alternating brakes and throttle depending on where you're riding at, that can make the delay for the throttle to kick in even worse. I'm gonna try to demo that delay a little bit here. Okay, so just off the line, when we're at a dead stop, you know, I hit the throttle and it's pretty much instant. You know, hub motors don't have the best torque right off the bat, so you don't take off instantly, but you can actually, you know, I hit the throttle, you can see the power meter go pretty much right away. Awesome. Then once we get up to speed, if I just like let it go and then hit it, it's that little bit of a delay, and it seems to be worse right around 18 miles per hour, where it'll, you know, I hit the throttle and it just sits at that 1 bar mark, like hit it 1 bar for a while, then it goes all the way up. And I don't know what what causes that. It right around the like 15 to 18 mile per hour mark seems to be the worst. You know, when I'm at these lower speeds, the delay is not as long. But then as I guess I get going faster, that was a really good one. Hardly any delay that time. Then, you know, if I let go right around here, coast to like 18 and then hit it, really long delay. And that delay is killer on these trails like this, because there's a lot of sections where I let off the throttle for whatever reason, you know, break down for a section I need to go slow or something, and then I hit the throttle again, and I feel like I'm just sitting there and waiting for forever. So that's probably the biggest opportunity improvement on this bike for me, I think, is that everything else about this off-roading feels awesome. The suspension is just great. You know, we probably could have a bit more power from the motor with a better controller to especially like help the hill climbing ability. You know, I want to try and go up this hill, but I don't think I can make it with this bike. I'm scared of getting stuck halfway up with this thing. It's way too big to bail. And, you know, even coming up right here, even that is, it's kind of pushing it. And there's a lot of sections like this that, I mean, yeah, we'll give them a try here, but not having a great response time from the throttle, or a predictable one anyways, makes these just, I don't know, a little bit sketchy, I suppose. I'm not going anywhere near fast enough in here as it is. But the suspension does feel great, so hey, at least there's that, you know? Woohoo! Try some of these bad boys out. I haven't actually been over here in a while, so I don't remember what all they've got going on. Oh yeah, they got some actual jumps over here. Don't think we'll be trying any of that with this thing. It's just a little bit too big and heavy. Not a great ratio with the amount of power on tap. C5 definitely shines on some of the kind of more single track-ish trails like this. Really solid traction from the tires. Plenty of grip. I mean, yeah, even if you stray off, you know, onto the grass and mixed terrain, it still feels great. Pretty nimble and agile too. Not a lot of trail in the suspension here, so within the limits of the steering damper, it's quite nimble. Okay, I think we can't go that way. See, I can't even turn all the way around right here. I'll have to 3-point it. Alrighty folks, well I've done, I don't know, about 18 or so miles on the C5 here, so I'm ready to share just some kind of closing thoughts, talk about who this bike is a good fit for. I'll tell you one thing right out the gate: if you are tall like me, not a great fit. Like if you're over 6 feet tall, you might want to look elsewhere, or at the very least, you know, try to get in and test ride the one somewhere before pulling the trigger on it, because it's just not that comfortable to pedal. You know, that's the cramped seating position, the cramped pedaling position really just gets to you, and you can feel it in your knees. Like my knees honestly like really start to hurt after you know, just a mile or two of doing that. So keep that in mind. But other than that, you know, overall, I'm really impressed with the build quality on the C5. Like I do want to be clear on that. Like this is great quality components on here. The suspension, especially in these off-road trails, feels awesome. Really solid across the board there. The place where I feel like things are kind of mixed is on just the design of this. It feels a little bit convoluted. Now, you know, Himiway says this is supposed to be, you know, it's supposed to be a combo of, you know, commuting utility plus the, you know, adventure thrill riding of off-road motorcycles. And you know, as far as commuting goes, I have to disagree with him on that, because there's, I mean, you have the coffee cup holder, that's cool, but that it doesn't add a ton of utility. You've got the lights, but that's pretty much it as far as commuting, you know, features go. There's no fenders, there's no rack, and it'd be really tough to add one because of this frame. I mean, I love, you know, it's a very cool frame, very unique, very eye-catching, but it limits what you can do as far as, you know, accessories. There's tons of accessories out there for racks and fenders that are available for standard bike frames, but you're not going to fit on here. So that kind of limits the commuting utility. You also remember you've got this the triple clamp fork up here with these bump stops, limits how far you can turn the steering column, which is good for stability and not scratching up your frame here. That makes it less maneuverable. So moving it around in the garage, you know, at the bike rack, whatever, is tough. It's a big, heavy bike. So that kind of cuts into the commuting utility of it as well. But what about the motorcycle bit? I mean, they definitely have the design part of that on tap, right? You've got the motocross style frame on here, the big triple clamp fork, these awesome tires, the suspension, especially having full suspension with a lot of travel. All of that feels great on trails. this. I feel like it's kind of a near miss on the motorcycling front, and take that with a grain of salt. I'm a motorcycle rider, and so that's what I'm comparing it to. So when I ride on roads that I might ride an off-road motorcycle on, with this, most of the time I'm just wishing I was on my motorcycle, because this feels like big and bulky and like, kind of motorcycle style weight, but without that much power. And a lot of that really just comes down to the throttle. I showed in the ride test, there's a lot of delay when you activate the throttle before it actually kicks in the motor back here, especially once you're already moving. And so that makes it just kind of frustrating on trails where you're kind of going brake and throttle back and forth a lot. And the same delay seems to affect the pedal assist too, which is a little bit funky. So if that could be, improved maybe with a firmware update, that would definitely improve how this feels on trails. Give it a big upvote in my book. Another thing that I feel like they could tweak on this bike is, get rid of the derailleur back here. We've got 7 speeds, which we don't need on a mini bike like this that's tough to pedal. 1 speed is more than sufficient. Ditch the torque sensor, switch it to a cadence sensor. That's going to make the pedaling experience a heck of a lot better. And if you go to a single speed, you could get rid of the old trigger shifters here, move the throttle over to the right, make it a twist throttle. Because if you're trying to go for a motorcycle inspired design, but you don't have a twist throttle on the right, I feel like you kind of missed the boat. Motorcycle people expect that. Having a throttle on the left feels very weird for a motorcycle rider. If you've never ridden a motorcycle, you're not really going to notice or care all that much. But that's just my 2 cents on that issue. Okay, guys. So with all that in mind, I think there are people that this would be a good fit for. Riders who are a bit on the shorter side. If you have access to like Jeep roads, fire roads, that kind of stuff, where you can go and ride, this would be a great fit for that. You might have mountain bike trails, but you need to check with your local regulations, because since the C5 has a throttle, since the motor is 750 watts, there's a lot of mountain bike trails that will not allow it. So maybe you do a little research into that first. But yeah, I think that's a wrap for just my thoughts here for today's review. Now, if you guys have questions or comments, let me know down in the comments section. You can also look in the description of this video for a link to the full written review back on ridereview.com. I've got even more details than this, got all the specs, got some photos as well, so be sure to check that out. Okay guys, ride safe, catch you in my next video.